Have you ever struggled to complete a piece of art? It looks fine, but you can tell something's slightly off and try to fix it, before proceeding to waste another 3 hours tweaking it even more because nothing ever feels quite good enough. Hi, welcome to my existence, aka Perfectionism. I've been making art since 2018 and even earned a degree in it. Shouldn't I be this successful, thriving artist by now? Yeah, apparently not. One thing that stunts my growth as an artist is efficiency. Whether it's a small icon or a giant mural, I will always take 5 times longer than I should to complete it. And honestly, if I don't break this bad habit sooner, I won't be able to sustain myself as an artist. So that is precisely why I participated in the one and only annual event called ArtFight. Art fight? Do people throw hands in art form? No, not that kind of art fight. It's basically a month-long community art event where 2 teams compete by making attacks on each other's characters. Making an attack basically means drawing someone else's character from the other team. The opposing team can then defend by making their own attacks on your team. Each attack earns you points, which are determined by how much effort and detail went into the drawing. You can also make friendly fire attacks to people on your own team, but that yields significantly less points. If you want to earn even more points, you can draw multiple characters in one drawing to make a mass attack, or you can make a revenge attack against someone who attacked you. Likewise, your revenge attack can also be revenged, and then that new revenge could also be revenged, thus creating an indefinite revenge chain. At the end of the month, the points are tallied up and whichever team has a greater score wins the art fight, and self-appointed bragging rights. So why am I participating? Wouldn't it just be easier to continue at my own pace and gradually get faster at art? Yes, but knowing me, if I don't change anything, I'll keep feeding into my self-destructive habits. Me participating in art fight is less about the actual competition and more about pushing myself out of my bubble of perfectionism. Plus, I won't be doing this alone. My friends are also joining me on Team Wither to try to beat Team Bloom. They'll not only be my accountability partners, but they'll also share the spotlight. Please welcome in Pengoo, Ambiguously Anonymous, and LandoCat.
I'm Pengoo, an artist. And, I do art, if you couldn't tell. Mainly of the digital variety. I make a whole lot of sketchy art. Not illegal art, I mean scratchy lines. Anyways, ArtFight was something I've been looking at for 2 years now and finally get to try. So I was gonna go all out. To me, all out means 8 pieces, apparently.
Good morning, good night, good evening, everyone. I'm Ambiguously Anonymous, and I do a lot of stuff. I don't post a lot of it, mainly because of insecurity, but when I do post it is usually art, videos, memes. I stream also. Most of the art that I do post is pixel art. I've been trying to do some less pixely digital art recently, but it's kind of difficult because I only have a mouse, I don't have a tablet, but I've been trying to do that more, which you will actually see some of in this video. I post most on Twitter, so if you're curious if I'm doing anything at the moment, that's probably the best place to look, because I always post anything I'm doing there.
Hey, I'm Lando, and I have approximately 0 other things to say about myself.
So, ArtFight has passed, we did the work, and now we're ready to share what we did. Each of us will talk about 3 of our proudest drawings by answering these main questions. Who did you choose and what is your concept? Why did you choose it? What did you struggle with? And what did you learn from it? You know, this kind of feels like a school assignment, but I swear this is the only way I can keep us, aka me, from rambling too much. Anyway, on to the actual ArtFight. I chose this very cute sheep named Crayon with an exclamation point by Peppicorn. My concept was extremely simple. Since this character is very colorful, I wanted them to stand on a rainbow cloud. Simple but effective. You know, the environment complementing the character design or something smart like that. I don't know. Point is, rainbow sheep on rainbow cloud. I chose Crayon because I wanted something much simpler to draw because last week was a commitment and a half. I drew 2 entire characters with action poses. I was very proud of it, but it was also exhausting. For some reason, my default is trying to outdo each drawing from the last, but I realized that I only have a certain amount of time and energy to do so much, so I settled with something more chill. Oh, and I also loved the color palette of Crayon. That's also a good reason. What can I say? I just like colorful characters. Since this was an easier character to draw, I didn't struggle as hard. which is not normal for me. For the most part, it was painless because I was being more lenient with myself. I guess the most I struggled with was trying to get the shading to look right. I usually make hard shadows, but I wanted to switch it up and use softer shading to make crayon look more three-dimensional. It's not something I usually do, but I'm happy that I did. Despite the simplicity, I definitely learned a lot in the background, mainly that I don't need to keep meeting this imaginary standard of quality. I've noticed that I have this need to go bigger in hopes of finally being satisfied with my art, when really, I'm just overworking myself. I never complain when someone else makes simpler art, but when it comes to me, I'm like, are you really being this lazy? It's bad. And guess what? I really loved how this drawing turned out. It's now probably one of my favorites. So I'm learning to be easier on myself. If I don't want to make 4 characters with a complex background, then I don't have to. What a concept.
Wowza, a whole question for me. During the first week of Artfight, I picked out some cute cats I wanted to draw, because I had a whole 2 weeks to prep and find characters. In fact, I even commented on Pichu-Bichu's character page that I had planned on drawing them. So I made that commitment a bit before the battle even began. I picked out Snowfall, an epic cat on an epic quest, and TBN, also known as To Be Named. So he doesn't really have a name, so I'm out here with the strong picks. Both were created by Pichu-Bichu, who sadly I could not find on Twitter. Because of course, if there's one thing we know about me, it's that I can't draw humans. Furry. Of course, I mean, that's not the only reason. Who wouldn't want to draw cute cats? Come on. Originally, I was planning on just drawing the 2 cats, but I thought it would have been a lot cooler if I made it an actual battle, especially since each character involved had a fantasy element to them. So, I included my fantasy cloud boy, Dennis, and my penguin, DJ. Can I go on vacation now? I wouldn't mind going to the Yello Island to play giant Nintendo DS. I did 2 whole questions. In this particular piece, I did struggle quite a bit with having a scene in mind from the get-go. I fiddled around with the perspective to make it seem like Dennis was looming over the scene, but I couldn't quite fit DJ in with that perspective. So it did take some fiddling to get the scene looking and feeling how I wanted it to. It's DJ's big moment being in his first attack. I sure am proud of how he did. They grow up so fast. Well, it was a very transformational experience. You see, I grew a 5-head and transcended the universe to render some grass. By far, the most important thing I learned was how important rendering was in the end. I mean, come on, look at that grass. I always hear people saying, touch grass? Nah, I'm making grass. P.S. Someone teach me how to draw trees. They're just blobs.
So out of all of the drawings I made for this art fight, you can definitely tell this is the first one I made. It's definitely more rough around the edges compared to the later ones. I still like it though. I think it came out nice. It looks cute. It's funny. The reason this one came about was just because Pengoo started making his first drawing and everyone else was picking out their characters that they wanted to draw first. And I'm like, dang, I need to stop being so judgmental of other people's characters and just pick one already that I like. So I was just browsing through the characters for like 30 minutes, still being very judgy of everyone's character designs. But then I ended up finding Spencer, the Cyclops cat. I drew him thinking he was a cat, but I realized it actually doesn't specify which species he is on the page, so. And basically, I thought Spencer was cute, and the moment I saw him with his one eye, I thought I could make a stupid joke comic with Gregory. I immediately thought of the idea of Gregory just seeing his one eye, not realizing, well, he's supposed to have only one eye because he's a Cyclops, and then trying to give him, quote-unquote, a new eye, a second one, in this case with point marker. I liked Spencer, I thought he looked cute, design, I wanted to draw him. Also, I wanted a simple character for my first one, which is why I also went with his more laid-back clothing, so with the beanie and the jacket. You'll notice in almost all of these, I included Gregory in them, just because I wanted to also take this time to practice drawing Gregory, because I really haven't drawn him all that much, but him being my main OC, so figured, 2 birds with 1 stone. What I struggled the most with, if anything, was probably Gregory himself, actually. The bunny ears in particular. I'm still not the best at drawing. I think I got a bit better with some of the later drawings, but definitely not the greatest at drawing them. His third lowest one thing looks a little lower than it probably should be compared to the other two. So it's like a really thick outline in the middle, but it looks fine. Oh, you can also tell I ended up having to redraw Gregory's entire body for the last frame or panel. I realized after removing the arms when I copied and pasted him that the torso just looked awful. It looks fine in the first panel, but when I removed the arms, I realized how bad it looked. If I learned anything from this, it's kind of hard to say. Probably just to better plan out panels when I'm making them. So originally Gregory was reaching his left hand out to the left side of Spencer's face because, well, he is left-handed. But then I realized after I had done that, Lando pointed it out. I had drawn the eye on the right side of Spencer's face because, well, if it was on the left, you wouldn't really be able to see it in the last panel, which meant I had to redraw Gregory's arm to be going to the right side of his face and not just straight out like I originally had it. So that was a lot of unnecessary effort, which could have been avoided if I just planned it better, so we'll see if I remember that though.
For this attack, I chose the joint character of Croissant and her partner, fittingly named Oh Whoa. This attack is a revenge on an attack that Croissant launched on me, where she made my character's head into a heart because ella ama questo gato. She loves this cat. As such, I chose to launch back an attack with my secret ingredients, aggressive lighting, shading, and love. I chose to attack this character because it's the only non-human character she has, and I am hopelessly horrendously horrible at drawing people. Although, that isn't the only reason I chose to pick this character of theirs. This character has a lot of malleable parts of their body, through things such as wings and tentacles, letting me be able to put far too many hearts into the drawing. Honestly, the sketching phase here was a really big rough spot for me. I had a clear idea in my head, but I just couldn't get it on paper. And I may or may not have been way too much of a perfectionist in the process, but that's fine, it's okay, we cry about it and move on. I'm still not the most proud of how the finished result ended up looking. For example, it's not that clear that the character actually has multiple eyes, nor are their proportions all that great, but honestly, I'm pretty glad I stuck it through. Even though there are 50 things I want to fix. If the universe had a Control-Z hotkey, I would use it right now. Sticking through with this one definitely was the most important part. Even though there are so many things I would do differently if I could go back, Photoshop please add Control-Z hotkey for real life, the process of rendering made me like the piece a lot more. It's hard to have a clear vision of how something will end up, so it can sometimes be hard to stick through. Not like I would know anything about that. Me? Works in progress? What does that even mean? Me? Going gaga.
This was the last drawing I did for Artfight, so I wanted it to be special to me. I dedicated it to my 3 friends that participated in this event with me. I wanted to frame everyone's art in this pompous gallery, but with a twist. I was going to recreate one of everyone's drawings, including mine in paint using just a mouse. Yes, classic paint that has a horrible paint bucket tool. And I wanted our characters, LandoCat, Yello, Dennis, and Gregory, to view these absolute masterpieces on the wall. I chose this silly concept because my friends really helped maintain my motivation to finish this challenge all the way through. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have made it past the second attack. I wanted to commemorate the time we all made art together. Amongst our chaotic schedules, was it the most mind-blowing idea ever? Absolutely not. But I just wanted to have a little fun at the end of the month, not take myself too seriously. I swear, one of my defining traits is my struggle to draw hands. Maybe one day I'll figure it out, but this month was not it. I redrew the hands like 6 times and it never looked right. You'll see in one of them, I just gave up and drew a cat paw instead. I eventually found a method that worked fine enough, and of course, it's constructing simple shapes. Sometimes I forget about the fundamentals. It's fine. Trying to draw the floor in perspective was also rude. I thought my initial floor looked acceptable, until my friend pointed out how one character looks like they're sinking, and I was like, I hate that you're right. I don't know how people can imagine 3D in a 2D plane. Beyond me. Especially with this drawing, I learned that it's not about making the most mind-blowing, never-before-seen, thought-provoking art in the world. Sometimes you can afford to have a little fun. No one's gonna stop you. Before, I felt like I needed to make the most impressive art to prove myself as an artist, but I think I've been too fixated on that. There have been times where I was so focused on polishing everything ever, to the point where I just forgot to have fun with it. I have a habit of making huge projects out of anything, and this is no different, but at least I'm reminded that my only requirement as an artist is to enjoy the process. If I don't find joy in what I'm doing, then I can't improve. So I'm legally requiring myself to have fun. It's quite a tall order for me.
In this particular piece of art, I had picked out a few different characters I found cute or cool. I wanted to go for a group drawing as this was a final piece before the end of Artfight. Although, at the beginning I wasn't nearly as ambitious. I have this habit of starting a piece with only one character, then slowly start seeing more characters as I browse through the array of creations on Artfight, and then begin drawing more and more characters until, well, I need a background for all these characters, of course. So, with the mashup of characters I picked, I decided it'd be fitting if they were boarding a flight together. Maybe as some sort of group get-together? The characters didn't have too much thought put into the actual composition of the piece. I more or less went for people I just thought were cool looking or would fit into empty spaces in the canvas. The setting, however, was actually because I was running out of time. Yeah, 5 AM art really makes you consider what you can do to cut back on costs. So, I picked out a simple, clean background. An airport terminal. Sleek, fancy, and clean, I would hope. I remember one of my struggles in making this was definitely more of my own time management. It was already about 12 AM when I began finishing the piece of art and was already thinking of more things to add. And it was tough cutting some of the ideas I had for the background. Even though I picked it out to be simple, I still wanted more. Curse those blasted time constraints. Learning from what I do, huh? I actually am trying to get into making more painting-like art, and I figured it would be a neat effect to color and shade the background without lines or anything, to really make the characters pop out on the screen. I think it made a nice effect. Furthermore, I also learned a couple things about tension points from Yello. He had definitely helped me pointing them out while I was coloring. Oh yeah, curse those blasted line art lines.
So the second drawing, which was still, I believe, in week 1? No, July 9th, so it was a little after the first week, but pretty much the first week. The idea behind this whole image was I again couldn't find a character I wanted to draw. It was like a certain type of character that I like drawing, I guess, and apparently Red Cat Boy with Yellow Sclera is that type because I drew 2 of them in a row without even realizing that I did that. And the reason wasn't actually just because of his design, although that definitely helped because it is adorable. The other reason was I actually really liked the idea of him being a paranormal investigator, like his description explained. I immediately thought of this idea where Rover and Gregory, I imagine being his friend, were eating some ice cream at a diner while Rover was just like looking through his camera to see like if he had found any like actual evidence, which I later decided to be kind of comedic in the sense that he accidentally caught a ghost taking a shower. And then I decided, well, if we have a ghost, I may as well make it another character. So I started going through all of the characters that there were by searching for the tag ghosts. I found Goober, just call out to me, he's adorable. Probably the blush is really cute. I said, yeah, okay, if there's gonna be like a shy ghost that was caught in an awkward situation, it's definitely Goober. The hardest thing was, weirdly enough, probably trying to draw that letter A in play. I don't know why, but that was exceedingly difficult for me. Maybe a more major thing that I had trouble with was trying to do the floor of actually the little shower scene because I'm just really bad perspective, but luckily Pengoo was able to give me some pointers to help with that. Yeah, I think the end result, I'm really happy with it. Like how Gregory just looks like he is as empty brain as he was in the first one. The main thing I definitely learned was just how to put together a scene. Like I really like the one on the left. The whole little dino looks cute. It's kind of basic, kind of plain, but it turned out really nice. And the one on the right could look better. I mean, it got the effect. I like how both my drawings so far had a comedic tone. I definitely wanted to try to like make people smile with my drawings, and based on the responses I got, I definitely think I succeeded in that, which made me happy.
I chose my Samsung S21 Plus. I chose this cute phone dog named Ringtone, owned by Sunny D, not the drink, for this attack. I didn't really have a clear concept when picking this character. My ideas were floating between them being a receptionist at some business or just the idea of phone dog on phone. One was way more complex than the other, obviously, and I definitely wanted to do another scene. Yeah, totally, yep. I did really want to do a scene, I just couldn't actually get a good one out. The concept I wound up sticking to is a magazine covering ringtone as this marvel of technology, raving about the fact that the dog do be on the phone. I wound up choosing the magazine concept because it worked well with the pose I already had, and frankly, I was lazy. I found the concept amusing, and it gave me the chance to screw around with lighting and shading, my beloveds. You might notice a recurring trend because I struggled really hard with coming up with a good concept for this one. I picked the character because cute, but I wound up not knowing what to actually draw. Hee ambition go burr. I had a hard time getting past the sketching phase because I didn't really know where to go, honestly. By this point, you've probably seen how many times I had to start over the sketch. I really wanted to do the phone dog on phone idea just because I found it funny, but I wound up losing that in the sketching phase as I went through so many other ideas. I kind of just had to accept the sketch as, it's good enough, I guess, and then move on from it. Coloring and rendering have always been my favorite part of the drawing process, but now I think I understand why. They're very influential to the end result. I chose to be more experimental with this attack since I was already sort of unhappy with it, and I wound up being super happy with how it came out. Using hard lighting and hard shadows worked really well for the art style I used, and I'm definitely going to do that more in the future. Given I remember and don't default to my usual hee paintbrush shadows gerber aesthetic.
I wanted to represent Pokemon Mystery Dungeon with Team AA, comprised of Maggie the Apom and Nigel the Aerodactyl by Neapolico? I think that's how you pronounce it. I love how the artist listed the Pokemon's movesets in the description, so my concept was to showcase their moves in action. Apom was going to use Swift, and Aerodactyl was going to use Ancient Power. Partially because they were the easiest to draw, I chose this team because I was immediately drawn to the art style. It's so novel to look at an Apom that wasn't smiling menacingly all the time. It felt like such a believable team to me, so I wanted to replicate that tough energy, you know, with as much skill as I had. My usual style is very bright and bubbly, so I challenged myself with not one, but two edgy characters doing edgy things. Surprisingly, I didn't struggle as hard as I thought. Maybe it was because I was getting into the groove or it was something familiar like Pokemon. Even though I had to draw an additional character, it didn't feel tedious, and that is what we call character development. I guess what I struggled with the most was Aerodactyl's head, but that was because I've never drawn a flying reptilian before. I mean, not bad for my first attempt. I kinda wish it didn't take nearly 9 hours to complete, but I'd say it was worth it. I need to keep reminding myself of this. But wow, practicing with basic shapes is way too helpful. I know it's something that I should do, but I'm always like, nah, it'll be fine if I just guess. And then I wonder why I struggle to sketch. This time I wasn't overly obsessed with trying to match the source material one for one. Even hardcore Team AA couldn't escape my colorful style. And you know what? The results were still great. I need to remember that no one is going to care as much as I do, and they usually don't notice anyway, so win-win. By far, one of my favorite pieces I've done.
Who? I wonder who? Why, none other than the Bunny Boy himself. Dennis, DJ, and last but certainly not least, Ethereal. A neat cloud. I thought it would have been cool to have a piece of art with another cloud folk. And would you look at that? Turns out, I have a piece of art to revenge too. Ethereal was definitely a neat looking cloud, and they look pretty pink. I started out with a background in mind for this one, walking along a shore with a forest in the background. I also think it's time to get some more fantasy themes going too. So I thought it would be neat if Ethereal was a cloud we met on a journey across the untamed forest of, Fantasyland, of course. Choosing Ethereal was an easy one. I'd absolutely fallen in love with a piece Copernicus made of Dennis previously, so I felt it was only right to revenge right back at them with their own. Plus, I felt that Ethereal would have a pretty good idea of directions, being able to actually float and all. Dennis wishes. For the background, I'd actually went with a more natural daytime setting, but felt it would actually be a lot more atmospheric for the travel to occur at night. I got hard at work with the hue, saturation, and luminosity sliders to make it look more gloomy, which led to a really neat looking purple tree line. It reminded me a lot of Don't Starve's coloring with the purple trees. I'd struggled a lot with getting the proportions on our characters right. I was cringing a lot when I was having to shift around Dennis's height, and redrawing Ethereal a few times so I got what I had mentally imagined in my mind. But that's what those blasted construction lines are for. Disposable material, easy to destroy and mend. But damn, it can be demotivating not getting it right the first few times. Along with that, pushing through is one of the most important things to getting it done. Don't be afraid to make drastic changes. I hesitate to move my lines around just a bit, when I should really be moving them a lot, if not outright resetting them. I think that's something that should really be emphasized more. If it looks off, it isn't always the right answer to finally tweak it for a long time. That is not to say that fine tweaking is not important, but time and time again, I have to get reminded to fix minor details that are just annoyances to me. In the end, it really adds up. So what I'm trying to say is, don't be too afraid to take a sledgehammer approach. You always have undo. Wait, unless you're doing traditional. Unless you want to take a sledgehammer to a canvas. Maybe that'd be some cool modern art statement.
So already with the third drawing, you can kind of tell, at least I would hope you can tell I kind of got into the groove of drawing after not really drawing for a while. This one, I think for the most part at least, I'm still completely satisfied with. I drew Gregory really well too, I pretty much nailed him honestly. I even remembered to do the little ear tufts this time. And then Oreo also just turned out adorable. I really love drawing Oreo. He's like probably my favorite character to draw. I liked drawing Wolverine, Spencer, and Wesley too, but Goober's probably my second favorite to draw after Oreo. The reason I chose to draw this one was actually because it was a revenge, because I promised on my profile that I would revenge anyone who attacked me. I made sure to attack, or rather revenge anyone that attacked me that I didn't know personally. Zoloft attacked me with the little cute picture of Gregory and Bananon hiding in the background. So I wanted to draw one of Zoloft's characters, and looking through them, there were multiple. I was torn between, I think, there's this little green, I think, raccoon. So I was trying to avoid drawing a bunny, because like, that's predictable. I like bunnies, everyone knows I like bunnies, but then I ended up drawing Oreo anyway. One of the main reasons I actually started drawing was because I had noticed in the description it mentioned not only that he's tiny, but that he is also very young, so be patient, which immediately made me think, oh, well, Gregory, he's really patient and good with kids. Like, I always imagined him being like a babysitter. He could totally be babysitting for Oreo. So he's in the kitchen making Oreo lunch. He's asking him what he wants, or if PB&J is all the way, which is also an in-joke with one of my friends. Originally I was going to have him actually making the lunch, but eventually I said I don't know how to make him holding a knife to like make peanut butter and jelly, so I just went with him asking if he wanted that instead. So far I'd done a different outfit for Gregory in each of them, and this time I decided to try to do his punk outfit that I have on his ref sheet because I hadn't actually drawn that one yet. So the thing I struggled with most is probably honestly just the fact that it's a scene. I really needed to learn like perspective things, but again, Pengoo came in to save the day and gave me a lot of much needed advice for how to reposition things. I would also say that is also what I learned from it, is just scene composition. I did a lot better with this scene, I think, than the previous one with Rover. I don't think there's anything I would really change about this. It looks pretty much perfect for what I was trying to do.
For this attack, I chose this UFO cat named Tinkle, owned by Erica Taylor. This is the one piece where I stuck to the theming of Team Wither, and I wanted to make this withering, dying forest being corrupted by glowing mushrooms and tangling thorny vines. I wanted Tinkle here to be the main source of light, and for the mushrooms to be more supplementary. I also just really liked the color combination of the pink light from Tinkle and the blue from the mushrooms. I chose Tinkle because they're a very cute cat, in my opinion, and I really wanted to do something with them. I wanted to practice drawing stellar objects, and their tail and head were the perfect places to do so. They made the perfect light source in my head, and I really liked the idea of them stumbling onto this dying planet. I struggled largely with being efficient on this one. I took by far the longest on it out of all of my attacks, despite the fact that I could have finished it so much sooner. It's not that I didn't even enjoy the process, my brain just went, instead of doing this, why don't you stress over your summer assignments, you idiot, you buffoon. I've learned that I should really just trust myself in the process. This piece was very free-flowing. I sort of just let the ideas rush into my head and linger there as I considered whether or not they'd work. I think I did a pretty good job with setting ideas down and then reconsidering them later on. For example, in the very beginning you can see my futzing with the area that later becomes shadow and red eyes. I very easily could have done the shack or cave, but I think that the eyes worked a lot better. This piece has taught me just to trust my ideas as they come. Also, I really need to do more scenes because this was so fun.
Personally, I set a goal for myself to make at least one piece of art per week. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but my ambitious brain would have been like, well, it's art fight. Gotta draw as much as you can. But I actually fought against this mentality and set a realistic goal. And can you guess what happened? I actually accomplished it. And I did it without burning myself out. Imagine that. Obviously, my output wasn't the most it could have been, and there were definitely times when I was focusing on something for way too long, but considering the end results, I think I did pretty well for myself. And most importantly, I didn't hate art by the end of this. We love keeping ourselves in check. The most integral thing I learned from this challenge was, no one is going to be as harsh on your art as you. It looks fine. That was like my motto for the entire month. Each time I was obsessing over a wonky hand or weird proportions, I had to keep reminding myself that this will not be my magnum opus, and that is okay. Just finish it and respect it for what it is. Despite making art at a much faster pace than usual, I had a ton of fun participating in this event, especially because I did this alongside my friends. It was also gratifying to contribute to something bigger than me. Could I have contributed more to Team Wither? Yes. Did I even stick to the theme to prove my loyalty? Not really. This challenge was mainly a motivator to help me escape my perfectionist tendencies. Did I succeed in that goal? Maybe. I didn't expect to suddenly have this mentality shift where I'm now this professional artist, pumping out acclaimed illustrations made in 2 minutes, but I did prove to myself that I am capable of making art more frequently. I just don't need to get hung up on the details. Outstanding quality can wait. It's all about those small incremental steps.
Well, I made a ton of art by my standards, so I feel pretty good. Learning about making my art efficiently helps. I would have liked to spend some more time on certain pieces, but what can you do? Well, for one, we can make Art Fight the entire year instead of just 1 month, and still host it yearly. That way we will always have Art Fight and never grow lonely and sad with our art. The biggest thing I learned this Art Fight was making scenes with multiple characters. That didn't come naturally to me like I would have liked, but practicing on Art Fight is the perfect way to learn how to do it, and make it somewhat compositionally sound. I know, I do art sometimes. Yeah. After all is said and done, I actually really enjoyed making this art. It taught me a lot about scenes and drawing others' characters. Pengoo, out.
I think overall, I did pretty well. I did better than I was expecting, and also about as well as I was expecting, depending on the particular drawing. The first one definitely could have used some improvement. The second one, already there's a lot of improvement. I'm still really happy with how that one, and honestly all of them except for the first one. I still like the first one, but it's definitely the most rough around the edges. They came out looking nice, pleasant to look at, even if they're amateurish. So if I learned anything, it was mainly just how to compose a scene, because I've never really done that before. Usually it's only full body drawings and pixel art, and I've really done a full-on scene, all of the drawings except the first one, which is just a blank background. I'd also learned how to do a half body bust shot, which I've never actually done before. I learned some of the basics behind making things that aren't just full body backgroundless portraits or reference sheets. Overall, it was a lot of fun, even if it was also a little bit stressful trying to keep up with all of the attacks that I got. But I don't think it was too bad or anything. It was just kind of lack of experience made it daunting to try to draw everyone's characters. And I also tend to get anxiety when I self-impose things on myself, like I'm going to make a revenge for everyone who attacks me, which wasn't a lot of people, but it was more than I was expecting, and that was enough to make me really nervous if I could even do it, and that made me procrastinate. I didn't quite complete my goal if I still want to attack the people that I didn't get to revenge. I know all of them personally on Discord and whatnot, so I can just send them something at any time if I want. Be like, hey, belated art fight. Sorry for taking so long. It was a lot of fun seeing everyone else drawing the characters they picked. Pengoo, Lando, and Yello, all of their characters and drawings were fun. Everyone has their own kind of drawing methods, so calling in groups, seeing how everyone goes about their drawing process was interesting, because usually I only get to see how I draw. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
I think I did alright, all things considered. I set the goal for myself to push myself out of my boundaries and try new things. I wanted to experiment a lot in Artfight this year, and I think I did that. I'm definitely going to do scenes more because I used to be awful at them, but I think the scene with Tinkle really helped out. In addition, I finagled a lot with how I actually do pieces in Photoshop in general. These were all my first time bothering with adjustment layers and curves, and I think they helped a ton. Artfight has revolutionized how I approach pieces in Photoshop, and I think it's also helped me stick through with them. The biggest thing I learned from Artfight is that I can get away with whatever I want while sketching. Being more freehand when sketching things has helped me so much with my end results. Artfight has shown me the scope of the impact of the rendering process and just how much I love it. This has definitely taught me to stick through the line art phase because that's where I tend to feel the most whack about my pieces. Frankly, this kind of became less of an experiment in expanding my boundaries and more an experiment in figuring out where my art style is. My art style is still far from concrete, but I think that this really helped me get closer at least. I've noticed that I can be so much more flexible in my methodologies than I normally am, and I'm certainly going to push that flexibility. I really enjoy doing this with friends, and I really want to do this again next year. Preferably doing more drawings and being overall more happy with them. TLDR, art fun. XOXO Gossip Girl.
So, after everything, I bet you're wondering, yeah, all this self-development is nice and all, but like, who won Artfight though? Well, we lost. At the end of the day, it's all in good fun. I don't really care who actually won, and I'm sure many others don't care either. If anything, we now have a convenient avenue to gawk at amazing art in one place. I mean, look at all of this. Like, what? If you're on the fence about doing Artfight in the future, I'd honestly recommend it. Trust me, as someone who's scared to try anything, I was able to pull through, and I believe you can as well. It's about getting over that initial resistance and just diving right in. As long as you can accept that each piece you make is nothing more than a mere step, it alleviates so much pressure to be consistent. Your success is not defined by the work you do, but how you view your work. Never thought that an art fight would end up this philosophical, but here we are. A huge thank you to my friends Pengoo, AmbiguouslyAnonymous, and LandoCat for being in this video and completing Artfight with me. Their camaraderie and encouragement have been invaluable. I cannot thank them enough. So please check out their art after this video. I'm super proud of what they made. And with that, this experiment draws to a close. Thank you for watching, and I hope you can make some awesome art. Okay, bye.